Today we have a fantastic panel of speakers lined up for you. Welcome to the OKR Consortium event, where key results become objectives.
Hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me and having me here. I'm Omar Salam. I'm a senior product manager at Booking.com, and I'm going to be talking about OKRs for managing data. Now, if any of you has been at the Product-Led Alliance Conference a couple of weeks back, you think that for the first couple of slides, I'm going to be talking about basically the same thing, which is what is managing data as a product, but I'm going to pivot into how OKRs helped us doing that. But I need to explain a little bit about that. First, let me tell you a little bit about my story of joining Booking was a little bit funny. I am overlooking now 3 different teams, but my first team was called Location Intelligence. And it's meant for managing GU data specifically, as only data. Now, when I was interviewing and understanding the scope, I thought that it was related to maps and searching in maps and all of these cool user experiences. And I was really excited about it because I really like maps. But when I joined and during my onboarding, I found out that the cool part is being handled by another team. And my team is only managing data, just data, raw data. And there is no user experience in that. There is no anything like, colorful in that. And I started wondering about, okay, when you're managing a consumer-facing product, customer-facing product, you could experiment, you could measure a lot of impact, you could do a lot of things, but how to do that for data that you are serving internally to other product teams? And that's why when I started, doing a lot of research on how to do this and got introduced to the concept of managing data as a product. But first, what's special about data? In the world that we're living in right now, this statement has came up a couple of years back in, I think, 2020, but it's still valid until now. 90% of the world's data existing right now was created in the last 2 years, only the last 2 years. And it keeps on exponentially growing, and it keeps on massively going into areas that we didn't really imagine before. So that's why the concept of managing data separately, especially in huge and big organizations, started to appear. So what's challenging about managing data? Why the need appeared to begin with? Data can be very fragmented. It's really fragmented, especially, again, if you scale your company, if you scale your operations, you starting to get a lot of teams that are building a lot of things, and they manage their own data in silos, in separate schemas, in different ways that are not interconnected. And then you would start spotting, the data would be captive in legacy systems that no one is tracking, no one have governance over it. It's structured based on very specific use cases that different teams are trying to build. And definitely it's not compliant to anything because, again, it's managed on very small scale, and you cannot really measure the quality. You cannot control the quality, measure the impact related to it. You cannot really measure anything about it. And that, by time and by scale and by the increase of different products and features that the organization is building, leads to what we call, it's not shifting, dark data. So dark data starts to be scattered everywhere. It's data that you don't have control over. It's data that you cannot really get value out of it because it's not even detectable sometimes. And it weighs the company down. It weighs your products down. And it's not always giving a very bad experience, but at least it's massively reducing the efficiency of what you could get out of it. If you're able, with scale, to manage the data in a very specialized way, you might increase the efficiency of your products and the productivity even of your teams. And you might use that to improve the customer experiences and serve for very specific use cases as you go. So, as I told you, I started to get into researching this concept a little bit more, and there is a differentiation that we need to put here between data product and data as a product. Data product, like for short afterwards, like everyone uses data product for both, but at least the concept has to be understood. Like data product is like building a product that uses specific sets of data to operate. Like if we're talking about Google Maps, the front end of the map, the roads, the navigation features, all of these are data products that are using geodata to operate. But the geodata part is managed separately. And that's what data as a product means. It means that the data set itself, the data asset itself, is the first-class product. And that's what would require a lot of infrastructuring, a lot of tooling, operations teams working on that to manage the quality, to elevate the quality, to measure coverage, to measure adaptability and adoption with different teams, all of that. So data as a product has this concept. Now, one of the challenges of working and managing data as a product is measuring impact, because when we talk about this concept, that happens only at usually at very big scales of companies, you're usually serving that horizontally across the company. Now, at Booking, we have a very big scale, not as Google as Amazon, but we have 400 and something product teams. My direct stakeholders, my direct customers are about 200 product teams. Like they're building a lot of experiences and so on. So one of the main challenges here is to measure the impact of our geodata on the customer itself. So of course, we have all the technical metrics of SLAs and SLOs and service time and uptime and all of that. That's not related to product. That's tech. That's engineering. But we have also other things like quality metrics, quality of data, coverage of the globe, these things. But also these are like operational vanity metrics. But the challenge is when we're trying to connect that to the organizational metrics, like conversions, for example, the impact of having correct geodata and information to support the decisions of our customers, how that is supporting decision making, how is that supporting actually making money for the company. And that could be a very challenging thing. And that's where OKRs came into helping a little bit, because we needed to find a way to build our strategy. What do we care about? What problems are we trying to solve? What's more impactful than the other one? So we started getting into this OKR mindset. Now, to talk about OKRs, there is a very important fundamental that we have to set. OKRs is not a process, it's a culture. OKRs is not a magic wand. If you use it correctly, magic happens. But if it's not a magic wand, it's not something that solves everything out of a sudden. Actually, what Megan and Hisung presented here is that through leadership, they actually presented cultural shifts in their organizations. How these organizations are building, how they're thinking about the operation of building a product itself, how they work together, changing how they solve problems and how they define what is a problem and what is a problem worth solving and worth prioritizing, and how to find the solution for it, and how to prioritize all of that. It's a cultural shift. It's not just an OKR to define with some key results, and that's it. There has to be extreme alignment with a lot of different functions, with product and tech and solutions and customer support, and all of these different functions, they have to be aligned on a mindset on how to think. What's the value that we're trying to come up with, and so on. So when I first joined and started working on location intelligence, things were not very well aligned. So we had the product and tech side, and we had the solutions or the operations side, the geospecialists and the people working on managing the quality and sourcing the data and all of that. And those two teams were two separate teams. They had their different objectives. They had different things that they are trying to pursue. They had different roadmaps or use cases that they are trying to serve. And I'm not talking about reporting lines because, again, product report has a separate reporting line, tech has a separate reporting line, everyone has his own reporting line. And I'm not talking about that, but these are two team structures. That didn't change because I'm an individual contributor. I cannot, do magic, right? But it was very important, and I was very lucky to work with a track leader that understood understood and already understands the impact of having like a unified front when you're trying to solve something. And luckily she had joined before me, like 3 or 4 months. And we had this agreement that location intelligence is one team with different people with a different skill set, and we're just doing different things, but we're all one team. Product, tech, solutions, specialists, analysts, data scientists, all of these people, they're just one team. And we started like working with this mindset, to spread it across the headcount of that team. And then we started working on on defining the vision. And what do we want to reach with this track? What is the impact that we are trying to... Okay, not a very good vision. What's the impact that we are trying to cascade? Because that's what would guide any other steps. The first step was designing the vision. And how would we proxy the impact? Now, we knew that we are serving our data internally. So these are our direct consumers that are consuming the data. But we had to find some connection with the indirect customers, our end users on Booking.com that are booking different, bookings. So the discovery started. It was a very long and a painful process. But the good thing that we had this common goal of trying to find the vision that we're looking for. And we started cascading that to all our direct consumers. We started having very long discussions with them about why do they use our data? How are they consuming our data? What features are they using to build our data and so on, to understand the value proposition and the actual objectives that they have across more than 150 teams. We started having these discussions. And then we started grouping, the different objectives that they have, the different metrics that they are following, the different, impact patterns that they are following or that they noticed, their experiments, how they build their experiments, all of these different things. Grouping them by, groups of impact or groups of metrics or, and a bit by bit, we started refining that into we actually build impact funnels, what we called impact funnels. Like these group of metrics are related together. These groups of metrics are related together. These give, relevant impact to each other and so on. And through this process and, continuous refinement and involving our stakeholders and consumers, we started defining that for the location intelligence track, we have 3 or 4 or 5 impact funnels that we could use as a prioritization metrics for anything that we think about. And that's how we thought about defining and building a proxy for our impact. And it made the vision definition for us a little bit easier on how we can help these teams to actually build and support the decision-making process of our customers. And that's the vision statement that we have right now. The next step was using all of that to think about a strategy. So yes, we want to drive impact. Yes, we have these funnels. We have all of these different things. So let's think about the strategy and the goals that we are hoping to achieve, right? Again, one of the most important things that happened within the steering committee of our track, or the people that are managing our track, is sharing objectives. We're not different teams, we're not optimizing for different things. We just have 3 or 4 objectives based on the vision statement, based on what we heard from our consumers and different stakeholders, and we defined just 4 areas of improvement. They were not really objectives yet, but 4 areas of improvement or 4 areas that we need to focus on. And when we had more definition of of course. So like these 4 things, they guided how we are thinking, how to define different goals, and we also had the aid of defining a prioritization metrics based on what I explained later. And it defines what you're chasing. It defines your what exactly. And when you have the clear definition of the improvement areas that you are, hoping to contribute to and how that proxies into impact to your customers and so on, inspired by the vision that you have defined, automatically you will find yourself presented with your objectives. Probably, give or take, that's like 90% of your objectives. So now we reach the state of having 4 objectives. Now it's key results time. When we started working on the key results, again, that's another workshop. As you can see, all of these steps requires a lot of collaboration, a lot of stakeholder management, because, as I said, this is not just a framework or a tool. This is a culture that should be spread within your team, within your track, within your org, as much as a big footprint that you can, even if you're just, from the bottom, from an IC level, you should start spreading this culture and evangelizing for it. So, again, with the KR definition, everyone is included. The whole team, all the different talents or different levels, from leadership of the track until the most junior analyst. We need the input of everyone. We did a bottom-up brain dump of different ideas and different, thoughts and problems that people have noticed before without refinement, just a brain dump. Just put everything from your expertise, from what you saw before, from customer feedback, from stakeholders' feedback, just put everything on a very, very, very big Miro board and let's start refining that. And then the idea grooming, same as the grouping exercise that we did with defining the impact funnels. We started doing the same with the ideas that we have. Again, this works for data specifically because we are a tech product. We are a lower funnel product. Discovery, of course, is a little bit different if you're talking about a customer-facing product, right? But that was, our way dealing with the feedback that we get. And we started doing some prioritization for the, So we grouped the ideas into a couple of initiatives that made sense together. And then these initiatives were mapped to the objectives that we have previously defined. And we started seeing that, okay, this objective could be, achieved, or we have 7 or 8 initiatives that relate to it. A couple of initiatives relate to this one and that one and that one. And then we started doing prioritization based on the impact proxies that we have came up with before. And based on that, we picked the top 2, 3 under each objectives. Now, until this point, we didn't do any effort sizing. We didn't do any of this because that didn't really matter at that point. We're still looking for the why and the what. We are not discussing the how over here. The how is at a later stage, at a road mapping stage, at a solution design stage. And here we're just talking about strategy, about objectives, and what we want to achieve for our stakeholders and customers and so on. And, we assign quantifiable or a verifiable measurement and time frame. And this is very important. The key result could be either quantifiable or verifiable. Sometimes you don't have the means to quantify every piece of impact that you have, but it's okay for key results to be verifiable. In the words of Andy Grove, and he is the guy that invented the OKR system, and actually he is the mentor of John Kerr, the guy that wrote How to Measure Things That Matter, and that was the guy that brought OKRs to Google, and that's how the whole OKR thing. At the end of the day, you could look without any argument and say, did I do that or didn't I do that? That's the actual value of key results. And it's very simple. Yes, no, it's just as simple as that. So why OKRs is important, and I'm rushing because I'm almost out of time. It gives you, the most important thing for us was it gives you flexibility, because with the type of product that we had, things had to be really flexible. We actually changed our OKRs for the past year and a half. We changed our key results 3 times, depending on how we defined impact, how we saw the product developing itself, because sometimes the key result wasn't always relevant. It had to have a new definition, but we're still following the same objectives. And actually, Sundar Pichai, now the CEO of Google, but then the product leader on Google Chrome in 2008, he used the same objectives for about 5 or 6 years. And in 2008, the objective was develop the next generation client platform for web applications, basically the best browser in history. And the key result was Chrome reaches 20 million 7-day active users. The next year, it was 80 million. The following year, it was 100 million, and it kept changing. The key result kept changing, but they stuck to the same objective for about 5 or 6 years. So it gives you this flexibility, of course, motivation and accountability. You already covered that in your deck, so I'm not going to repeat myself. It's in the words of the amazing Bono, and if you don't know Bono, you're probably like too young, but that was an amazing rock star in a band in the 80s. But also Bono wasn't only a rock star. He managed charity organizations, and they actually used the OKR framework to see if they're achieving their objectives. And in his words, OKRs gives us an environment for risk, for trust, where failing is not a fireable offense. It actually enhances the way you learn about what you're trying to achieve. And when you have that sort of structured environment and the right people, magic is always around the corner. As I told you, it's a culture, it's not a tool. Thank you so much. Please, yeah.